So last night, the weirdest thing happened to me. I was up until about 1 a.m. and for some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about Justin Herbert and him going down as a top five quarterback. I know it sounds like I'm making this up, but I made a YouTube channel back when I was in college, and I never really expected much. And the first channel I made, I've got like 10 channels at this point now, but the first one I ever made was the Chargers, and it was because of Justin Herbert and how much I appreciated his game. And right now, he's got the most passing yards at this point through his career, his rookie season, his sophomore season, his junior, and then so on and so forth. Justin Herbert still has that record for most passing yards, but he hasn't won a playoff game. He's only made the playoffs twice. And I will say, I do think that the Chargers have let him down in the sense of roster construction. But since then, they've made a lot of good moves. They brought in Jim Harbaugh, Jim Hortez, of course, Jesse Minter. It's about as good as it gets. It's a really good staff. And Herbert had the best regular season of his career last year. But then in the playoffs, he didn't. He kept throwing interceptions. He was missing receivers. Drops didn't help. But overall, Herbert just wasn't at his best. And I think he's going to learn from it. And I do confidently believe, and I'm willing to say that Justin Herbert is going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to say he's going to win five or anything crazy like that, but I think when it's said and done, Justin Herbert is going to get a Super Bowl. I don't know if it's going to be this season, but he's got a great chance because the defense last year gave up the fewest points in football, and it only got better. It might not be necessarily as much star power as it was last year. Of course, Bose is gone, and not saying that like Poona Ford and Morgan Fox are stars. They were for the Chargers, though, but those guys are gone. But in terms of one, two, and three at each position, all those guys are going to be competing, and it's going to be an absolute bloodbath in training camp to see who gets those spots because there's still a corner spot open. The defensive line is wide open. Receiver is wide open. Running back is wide open. For all we know, who's the starting running back? Just because Najee Harris got paid in free agency doesn't mean he's going to be it. Like, Amari Hampton was a first-round pick. And outside of that, like Kamani Vidal, like Hassan Haskins, like I like them, but obviously like they're not going to be the starting running backs. But I'm looking at receivers specifically, though. Lad McConkey is obviously going to be in the slot. He's the go-to guy. But you got Trey Harris. You got Quentin Johnston. Mike Williams. Like, who's going to be able to step up? Keandre Lambert-Smith is a guy to watch out for at the receiver position. I got in trouble for saying this yesterday about my guy Brandon Rice. Man, I'm a Buffs fan. I also like USC too, of course. So he came from those schools. So I'm a little bit biased. He's probably not going to have much of a role. But he's still a receiver that is young with potential. Like, you never kind of know. I mean, it takes receivers years sometimes to develop. Tight end is the thing. Like, Will Disley had a career receiving, but I'm excited about Tyler Conklin. But I'd be lying if I said that those are the guys in my mind right now, the veterans. It's actually Aronde Gadsden. I think he legitimately is going to break out in training camp. He already had a really good meeting camp, especially at rookie camp, because of his ability to line up anywhere. And he's actually not a tight end. He's a wide receiver playing tight end, 6'5", super quick. Big strides, obviously, out of Syracuse. I mean, he's the best tight end in Syracuse history. Like, he's that good. And I can't wait to see him go to work in training camp. But Herbert, there's no excuse because you have a great defense. You have a lot of weapons around you. The offensive line is the thing. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, that is as good as it gets. Like, Slater's about to get paid. Joe Alt, a generational talent at that tackle position. But the interior was absolute garbage, and the Chargers couldn't run the ball last year. They lose J.K. Dobbins. And by the way, why they didn't bring back J.K. Dobbins is beyond me. Like, I get they already had Harris and Hampton, but letting him go to the Broncos probably was not a good idea because we saw last season when he was healthy, he was actually very productive. But I digress on that. Talking about the interior, Mekhi Becton gets picked up and plays the right guard position. He's coming off of the best season of his career. He was with the Eagles. The Eagles have the best offensive line coach. I mean, we saw in the Super Bowl. I mean, Saquon Barkley is amazing, but he almost went for 2,000 yards. He would have went for 2,000 if it hadn't been, of course, for sitting out the last game. But at the same time, there's an extra game now, so it doesn't feel the same. But they won the Super Bowl. Like, Saquon was unstoppable, and Becton was blocking for him, so I'm excited about that. One of my crazy hot takes this summer is that if Mekhi Becton breaks out and becomes a star, like the Chargers are winning the Super Bowl. Like, I think that highlights him. Like, if you have a star right guard and then you already have two superstar tackles, I mean, that's going to be a big problem for teams to have to deal with. Because Justin Herbert's already a top five quarterback. And then, of course, you got to go with the run game now and things like that. And I was on a podcast like a month or two ago, and we were going over the top quarterbacks. And everyone called me an idiot, but I said that I would take Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts. I wasn't saying like by much or like any day of the week, but yeah, I would. Like, I think Justin Herbert has the best arm in the NFL. I think he's a great leader. I think he's poised, and his best football is ahead of him. I love Justin Herbert, man. I've been a big fan of him for a while too. I'll never forget back when I was in college, like a couple of years ago before I graduated, and I got offered a job by the Chargers, and I told my professors about it, and they literally like told the whole lecture. And that's just crazy to think, bro. I remember when I had like a couple thousand subscribers. Like, I mean, this is just my Charger channel, but it was a big deal. Like when I made Charger videos and I was getting views and things like that. I mean, it's kind of unheard of, for a lot of people is being able to do this on YouTube. That's why I always be grateful for the Chargers and I'll always root for them. And I lived in Houston for about a little over 2 years, so I was in Houston during that game. Of course, when the Chargers lost, and to see Herbert go down like that was disappointing. But I went back and I rewatched it. I went back and I looked at the film, and yeah, Herbert was bad. But also, like Will Disley had a huge drop. There's no run game to speak of. That's all going to be fixed. That's why I'm hoping that Aronde Gadsden can break out, Najee Harris and Amari Hampton. That has me super excited as these two studs at the running back position, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then Bradley Bozeman playing left guard, was center last season. The interior of the offensive line is going to be tested. It's going to be awesome to see them compete in training camp because we can't just discredit Andre James. He was signed here and he's going to be competing for that starting center job. So you'll have to wait and see. But the defensive line with Deshaun Hand, of course, and I'm looking at Jamari Caldwell, Tier Tart, all these guys, even like a Naquan Jones, they're going to be competing for these spots in training camp. And I don't know if anybody has a more interesting camp than the Chargers because this is one of the few teams where you look at like the first, second, and third string, and it seems like anybody can kind of win it at multiple spots, right? Like, I'll give you guys an example. Like at the corner position, you've got Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still, Jazeer Taylor, Benjamin St. Juice. Like all these guys, we don't really know who's going to be the starting corners. Like Dante Jackson is yet another name. Jaquezie Bridges might be getting very ahead of myself, but what if he has a great camp and impresses, of course, Harbaugh? Because Harbaugh said himself, he's like, we're going to have to leave off some really talented players. And that's how I look at the Chargers is they're one of those teams where you wish you could kind of bring more guys because they just have so many good players that flew under the radar. Like nobody really knew who Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still were last season. I mean, maybe you knew them in college, but who thought they'd come in and make that big of an impact at the NFL level? They were, and then I'm looking specifically as well at a guy like an Elijah Molden who was so good that allowed Derwin James to play where he feels comfortable, which is closer to the line of scrimmage. We know he can get after the quarterback, he can make tackles, he can drop into coverage. James can do a little bit of everything, but he's definitely good up on the line of scrimmage where he can make plays. Khalil Mack, once again, was the best edge rusher on the team, which is no surprise. The numbers back that up with his pass rush win rate. But he's going to need some help. He's going to need a guy like a Tuli to below two to take that next step. I thought he had a good year, if I'm being completely honest. But he needs to be even better if the Chargers want to compete in this loaded AFC West with the Chiefs and, of course, the Denver Broncos. But outside of that, that's all I got for you guys. Just wanted to let you know. People are probably going to think I'm making this up, but I was thinking about that like 1 a.m. I don't know why, but I was just thinking like, what if Justin Herbert goes down as a top 5 quarterback of all time?